Hello and welcome to Life of an ENFJ. I'm Rory Bean, and in the last video we talked about ENFJ and our strengths. Today we're going to be talking about ENFJ's weaknesses and our shadow functions. Um, so I have a lot of notes, so excuse me for looking down at them, but let's just go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is something that can help push an ENFJ forwards and also hinder them. So this would be their idealistic ways. We have a strong sense of how things should be, whether it be our careers, our experiences, or even our relationships with other people's. Now, when we don't meet these expectations, this can lead to us being a bit overwhelming because it's not that we're trying to be annoying or anything, but it's because we want us and the relationship to other people to meet this expectation. And so we try everything in our power to push it to meet that. And sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming to other people. We tend to blame ourselves too much. We don't give ourselves enough credit. Like I said, when we don't meet this expectation, we kind of get down on ourselves about it. We become really controlling and manipulative in not a proactive way, though. We tend to push other people to the point to where sometimes they can even feel uncomfortable just because we want it the way we want it because it's how we see it in our heads. We also tend to get really hurt when our communication skills are very subpar or when they feel subpar to us, especially when advice is given to other people and to us it seems like it's fallen on deaf ears. I know this drives me absolutely nuts. Like if someone comes up to me and asks to help and I give out all these, explanations or, it's up to you to do this, you're going to have to do, what you want to do and blah, 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 etc. Anyways, and then they don't get anything from it. It really brings us down a lot. Now with this, with our idealistic ways, this can lead to what is known as cognitive dissonance. Now, this cognitive dissonance is the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude changes. So when we don't meet this expectation, the ground that we thought was stable is starting to shake, and we can feel the pressure. And we have to readjust things. We have to realign our viewpoints on certain subjects, and to us it really gets under our skin, and it just really irks us. So after talking about idealism, I feel like this is a good transition into our weaknesses and our shadow functions. It takes a long time for an ENFJ to really get mad, honestly. We can get annoyed, we can get irritated, but overall, to get to the point to where we want to fight or where we get mad, it takes a lot to get us there. Unlike, let's take an ESFJ, for example. Problem arises, they get really pissy really quick, and then it's over. An ENFJ, it adds on top. It stacks up bit by bit by bit until it literally overflows, and then an ENFJ just gets really pissed. To any ENFJs out there, I would say to cope with that, have some sort of outlet. For me, an outlet would be music or working out. I go to the gym 5 times a week just for that emotional and psychological outlet. Not to mention, but it's very proactive. It helps you physically as well. So do something that's proactive that can help you, and it's an outlet. When someone is stressed, not just an ENFJ, we tend to revert to what is known as the shadow functions. These shadow functions they can be defined as something out of the ordinary of how you would normally act. For us, for ENFJs, we become very cynical of people, of situations, of even ourselves. A good way for any ENFJ out there to deal with this, remove yourself from the situation and think about it. Just kind of collect yourself. I know that seems kind of hard, but it's probably the best way to deal with that. We purposefully bring ourselves and others down because we're so good and we know we're good at dealing with others' emotions and our emotions and the mood around. When we are very irritated or mad, we will purposefully go out and self-sabotage everything. Just bring it all down. We just want to see it burn. And this goes completely against what we're normally for. So that usually happens. The best thing that I could say for that is try to work on just calming yourself down. Yet again, removing yourself from the situation. Another thing that tends to happen when ENFJs get stressed is we tend to do things in excess. Some people will revert to drinking, gambling. Now, I'm not saying this is just strictly ENFJs, but for the majority of the time, when we're in our shadow function or when we're stressed out, right, we tend to do that. I know for me, an example I could give, I'm absolutely horrible with math. And about, I want to say a year ago, I think, I had this stats class. And I knew I was bad at it. I wanted to get into the stats class just so I could get my grade and get out. And it wasn't going to work like that. I actually had to sit down and I had to do the work and methodically go through it. Well, I didn't want to do that. I didn't have time for it in my eyes. And so I would come up with excuses. The biggest excuse that I could come up with was playing Ultimate Frisbee and longboarding. I would skip class. I would cut class short. I would not do my homework. I would just push it to the side, you know what I mean? And I would go do these other activities. Too much physical activities, you know what I mean? So luckily, those things are kind of proactive, but it's stopping me. I'm self-sabotaging myself to not do what I'm supposed to be doing, which totally goes against everything that an ENFJ wants to do. The best thing that I can say with that, sit down, think about what you need to do, and do it. Don't just go out and live in the moment necessarily. Now, I'm not saying not to live in the moment, but when you're stressed out and when things seem overwhelming, sit down, plan it out like ENFJs are good at, and work through it. Actually put the time and effort into doing it. Something else that we tend to do is we ignore other people's emotions when they come to us about it, which it's true. We really do it, and it's not something that we're proud of because we are so people driven. We're so driven to help people and their emotions, and when we ignore it, it really eats at us. I'd say more so than the other person and their problems, depending on the problems. If it's little things, even little things like just little advice, I'd say that it gets under our skin if we aren't able to help. The best way that I could say to that, step away and think about it. That's probably the best advice that I could give for that. It works for me anyways. And then come back to that person and their problems later. When we get into the shadow function as well, we tend to revert towards our introverted thinking. This introverted thinking causes us to ask too many pointless questions that aren't proactive in any way, shape, or form. We just start asking these questions because we want everything to make sense to us logically. We have to learn how to stop that, how to be quiet, how to answer our own questions, and realize that we can make it through these trying times, right? That's the best advice that I could give to an ENFJ. Now that I went through the majority of the weaknesses and idealism, I'm going to talk about personal irritants that I have. When I've noticed something is unorganized, that is a big thing for me. Let's see. Bad communication, I cover that in the weaknesses. Things don't go as planned. I get ignored. When I'm ignored, I feel like that's a stab at me. Like, oh, you're not worth anything. So I'm just going to ignore you. I take that very personally. I don't know if other ENFJs, how they feel about it, but they can talk about it on the YouTube page if they want. I'd be interested to see what others would say. When I'm not given enough me time, when I say that, I mean that when I have time to be by myself, think, read, go do personal things, when I'm too involved with people. Now, that sounds really weird because we're extroverted, but I don't know. I think it's really healthy for an ENFJ to have this quality time with themselves, and not just an ENFJ, but any type, period. I think you need to have some quality time and a personal relationship with yourself because you're the most important person in your life. So let's see. Another thing, told what to do to a certain extent. Sometimes that just really pisses me off when people tell me what to do when it doesn't make sense or it doesn't follow the set path or it's not organized. It just really, really gets under my skin. I don't know if this is true for any ENFJs, for other ENFJs, but we can talk about it if you guys want down below. Okay, so after talking about all these kind of negative things, I thought I'd end on a positive note. I'm gonna challenge you with some homework. This homework, I was introduced to it by taking a positive psych class in the summertime. Now, this is called the 3 Blessings homework. It's intended to increase the happiness and the sense of well-being in an individual. Now, from an evolutionary standpoint, it's very it's kind of an advantage to dwell on negative aspects. It helps us learn, it helps push us. However, this can also hinder us because it doesn't allow us to focus on the positive things and the positive things in our life. So this homework is designed to redirect our focus off of the negative aspects and onto the positive aspects in our life. So each night before you go to bed, I want you to think of 3 good things, and then I want you to write them down, and I want you to reflect on why they happened. So let me grab mine as an example, and we'll talk about it. So just get a notebook, not a big deal. If you had something like you went out to town that night or you're away, just think about it and then write it down the next day. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that night. It doesn't depend on it that much, but just have an open mind towards it and just write it down when you can. Okay, so 3 things exercise. August 28th. The interview went well for my job at the pool. At NSU, they're getting a new pool here. They're getting a new fitness facility, and I applied to be a lifeguard there. So why did this happen? Because I'm good at communicating, I'm good at lifeguarding, and I have friends that truly care about me because they put in a good word for me to the boss. So just put down something and reflect on it. I got a crush's number because I'm attractive, and I was feeling confident after the interview. I had a good workout later. Why did this happen? Because I have stresses, and this is a good way for me to vent them out. And let's see. So we'll move on to the next day as well. August 29th. I went to Muskogee with some friends to get a haircut. Why did this happen? Or why was this beneficial for you? Why did you like it? It was nice because it was good company, and I'm blessed with enough money to go and get basic things like this, or to have a good time. The next one, I didn't do good on a test, but I learned from it. I learned what the professor is looking for and expecting, and now I'm better prepared for the future. The next one was, I had a very intimate conversation with God. I'm not going to go any more detail on that one. So these things don't have to be life-shattering, but they can be. Like they can be like, oh, I went and got a cup of coffee today. But they can also be like, oh, I'm having a kid here pretty soon, and I'm extremely stoked about it. They just have to be something good. They just get your attention away from the negative aspects in your life and puts it on something that's positive to help your happiness and your well-being. So that's my homework for you guys. If you want, I'll leave a link in the description to the website where I found it. So until next time, this was weaknesses. We just discussed that. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.